Welcome to another episode of the Not-for-Profit Podcast. My name is Matt Williams. Today we are talking to Nic Marchesi from Orange Sky. Nic started Orange Sky, as you'll hear. He'll do a quick introduction to help people. Today he's going to talk to us about three things that he sees necessary in any NFP. The first one of that is being passionate. You need to be passionate about what you do, how you do it, and where you do it. And also not just for NFPs, but also for business. Nic also then goes on to tell us how they structured their business in a way that they didn't see originally what would happen by starting a software within the business. Nic expands on this to see that it worked for them, so they were able to take that to others as well. And now that is a stream of revenue for them. Nic then also goes on to tell us the third thing about helping others. That's what NFPs are all about. That's what we try to get done. But it's also reaching out to others and letting them know that we are there to help each other and not just be out there alone. So without further ado, let's get on with the episode. The Not-for-Profit Podcast is brought to you by Platinum Audits for all your auditing needs. If you need any audits done or you need any information, please contact Platinum Audits. Welcome to the Not-for-Profit Podcast. Today I'm speaking with Nic from Orange Sky, and he's going to do his own introduction today. And welcome, Nic.
Thanks, Matthew. Orange Sky is Australia's first ever free mobile laundry service. Started here in Brisbane in October 2014 with a really crazy idea to chuck 2 washing machines and 2 dryers in the back of a van and simply drive around and wash and dry clothes for free. And our first ever mission statement was to improve the hygiene standards of people that were doing it tough. And what we realised after getting our first van, Sudsy, behind me to work in the back of to work in Brisbane, is we realised that Orange Sky had very little to do with washing and drying clothes. It sort of had everything to do with, while the washing was on, sitting down and having a really awesome chat. So our mission at Orange Sky very quickly evolved to positively connecting communities, and how we do that every day now is through those really simple things like washing and drying clothes, providing safe hot showers, but most importantly and most impactfully, through 6 orange chairs in every van, opportunities for people just to sit down and have really awesome conversations.
That's awesome, mate. So you started with the one with Sudsy in the background there, the one van. Have you grown? You've grown now. Obviously, you're almost nationwide. How big you've got to?
Yeah, so this October, Orange Sky turned 5, and we've now got 29 vans in operation around Australia in every state and territory, and predominantly across the east coast of Australia. We've got a van in a remote Indigenous community of Lockhart River, which is 200 kilometres from the tip of Queensland all the way down to Hobart and over to Western Australia. And we've also got 2 vans in New Zealand. So we've got a van in Auckland and a van in Wellington. And homelessness in Australia, 1 in 200 people are unfortunately doing it tough and disconnected from the community. In New Zealand, it's 1 in 100 people. So a great but an unfortunate position to be able to help in those communities now as well.
Oh, that's awesome. What first got you started in that? Were you out on the streets and saw this? What got you started to throw 2 dryers and 2 washers in the back of a van?
Yeah, so Lucas and I were fortunate enough that our school, which we went to growing up, had a food van that fed people doing it tough. And through participating in that food van, we realised that there were people out there in our own backyard that didn't have access to things that we took for granted, like a meal, like someone to talk to, like clean laundry. So leaving high school, we wanted to find a way to continue helping in the community in quite a selfish way of simply getting our mates involved in helping. And never did we think that Orange Sky would grow to what it is now, but really sort of from that first person that I ever had a conversation with, which is a gentleman by the name of Harry. And Harry had, was just like my uncle and my granddad. He had these stories that went on and on and on forever. He had sort of jokes that were really terrible, but unfortunately he was sleeping in a park and doing it really tough. So sort of from meeting Harry, that curiosity to sort of find people that we could help. And And now Orange Sky is fortunate enough to help sort of people like Harry every day.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great. In growing, so 2014, so you're 5 years old, you would have gone through, one van, two vans. In growing that, how did you get the people involved, and how did you find the right people to get to where you are today? Like you would have had to have accountants and advisors and all that sort of stuff. How did you find them?
Yeah, so it's been our mission at Orange Sky is that to positively connect those communities, and I think that Orange Sky is not a reflection of Nic and Lucas. It's those communities of people from all walks of life coming together. So our main touchstones at Orange Sky are our friends, so people like Harry that trust us with their only possessions. And to date, we've washed and dried sort of 1.3 million kilos of laundry, facilitated over 7,000 showers, and that comes with a lot of trust with our friends. So really working with other community service providers in us adding value to the work that they're doing in the community, and our Orange Sky couldn't operate without those amazing groups. It'd be our volunteers. So Orange Sky's now got 1,800 volunteers around Australia, 200 over in New Zealand, and without our volunteers rolling up their sleeves and going out and helping the community, Orange Sky couldn't operate. Then it's our supporters. So Orange Sky is run by the generosity of people giving to us, and people donating to us is the only reason we exist. But then also our incredible team who facilitate our Orange Sky vans going out. So we've got an amazing team of people here in Brisbane and also around Australia that do everything from build the vans to fundraise for the vans, support the administration, and sort of fundraising for the vans. And without that team, we couldn't operate. So a broad mix of incredibly passionate people who have that common goal of providing those really basic human rights.
And that I think you hit the nail on the head there. What I see is just passionate. Everyone that runs a business like you run, or even any NFP for that, has to have that passion. Otherwise, you wouldn't do it.
Yeah, and I don't think it's contained to not-for-profits. I think that we really see that industries, whether it be not-for-profit or for-profit or technology or vehicle builds or fundraising, I think that being aligned to purpose is really, really important. And we've tried to do the best job we can to continually evolve that and amplify that as sustainably as possible.
Oh, yeah, cool. If you had to do something different, if you went back to the start again, if you had it all over again, would you do differently? I mean, would you do anything differently, and what would it be and why?
Yeah, I think we're not naive enough to think that we've made lots of mistakes since starting Orange Sky, and I think that there's lots of things that we would have done differently. But I think in hindsight, looking back, if we hadn't given certain things a go or had certain determination, we probably wouldn't have had those failures. So I think probably there's lots of things we would have done differently, but also we're very proud that we just gave it a go in lots of different things. So I think from the early days, probably we didn't take Orange Sky as seriously as potentially we should have. And I think that was both a positive and a negative, in a sense that, in our first month of operating, we had sort of 2,500 unique donations from 24 countries around the world. And we were lucky enough to help 300 friends. And I think that probably our systems and our processes still don't reflect the scale that potentially we need to be at to help people globally. And I think that's constantly a push and pull around, absolutely. When we started, there were things that we now do that were more safer and more robust, and probably from financial security through to how we protect our people. All those things have matured as Orange Sky's matured, and potentially if we had known in the early days the risks that we were potentially subjecting people to, we would have done differently. But like I said, I think being naive probably helped us along the way as well.
Oh, absolutely. As part of what you've done and how you've grown, and you said you had donations in that first couple of months around from all other places, have you been getting requests to do other things in other countries and do other things in other places that you've had to say no to? And is it hard to say no to, or is it safer to say no?
I think we've probably done a balance of both. So unfortunately, there are people all around the world that don't have access to the really simple things like laundry, like a shower, like someone to talk to. And, we've been fortunate enough to be in a position where we've been somewhat successful in providing a service. So we do get a lot of requests from people wanting to grow services around the world. And we still don't have our model right to be able to support people all around the world with that. But there's definitely things we've said yes to that we shouldn't have said yes to. And there's things that we've probably said no to that maybe we shouldn't have said no to. But I think that's an evolution of knowing our capacity, knowing our core value, having the right people in place, having the right funding, and making good decisions. And I think, like any organization, we've made decisions that we're incredibly proud of and have been very successful. And like I said, we've made decisions that, in hindsight, we definitely shouldn't have.
Yeah, definitely. And we all do that, mate. Even in business, I do that myself. So yeah, it's all learning, and it's part of life learning. When in those early days, going from the startup in the couple of months, and yourself and your brother running did you made the decisions then? When did you see the need to go to a board structure and to have that legalization of it? And was it a smooth transition because of the passion of everyone, or was there actual some bit of bite back?
Yeah, so Orange Sky started purely as a with an ABN that was registered under a not-for-profit, and we had no charitable status, we had no DGR or deductible gift recipient status, and Lucas and I funded the whole project ourselves. And we thought one day down the line we'd be a registered charity, but we just wanted to hit the ground running and starting to help people. So our first donations actually weren't donations; they were people buying a load of washing on behalf of someone, and that was purely a business transaction. And we then wanted to become an incorporation, so we needed 7 directors. Lucas and I were on that board. Our mums were on the board. We had the head of the washing machine company and a few other people that were on our first board. And that board saw Orange Sky grow from Nic and Lucas in 2014 to about $270,000 revenue in our first month to first year, to 1.2 million now, to our last financial year is sort of about $6.6 million of revenue or something around that. So, Orange Sky's been on this very steep trajectory of, risk and people and revenue raising. And at the same time, we've had to grow our board. So Orange Sky is now a company limited by guarantee. And I guess, with any of those things, change does things. It speeds things up, it slows things down. And that's something that definitely that's been a part of our growth as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've learned to adapt to the new change and go from there. In saying that, your systems and processes would have had to change over the time as well. What's one of the systems you've introduced where you thought it wasn't going to work and it absolutely worked, but it's a little bit, might not quirky, but a little bit different system? Obviously, it's unique because you guys have water waste in the back of a van, that sort of thing. There's a lot of uniqueness to what you do. But what was a system you've introduced where you went, well, this may not work in every business?
Yeah, so I think Orange Sky, as much as we're an asset-based organization with fleet, with complexities around washers and dryers and showers, at our core we're a people-based organization. And our first ever hire, Orange Sky, was a software developer. And sort of a quirky challenge we had was, how do we mobilize volunteers and how do we connect them with shifts, and how do we make sure that we're empowering volunteers to operate our service in really in a safe and sustainable way. So we couldn't find any tool or process or software on the market to help us manage those volunteers and manage our service operations. So we built out a suite of software that helped us, run our vans, whether that be through knowing our van's impact, knowing the incidents, knowing our rostering, knowing our service operations. And over the last 5 years, that's grown to a software platform that Orange Sky couldn't operate without us existing. And probably in the last year, what we've really seen is that that's actually kept on growing at even a faster pace, because we made the decision to actually provide that software to not only Orange Sky, but as many organizations as possible. And that software is called Campfire. And we're now actually helping other not-for-profits with those challenges, but also that's a revenue stream for Orange Sky. So I think when we started, we didn't think we'd have vans all around Australia. We didn't think we'd have thousands of volunteers. And I think definitely we didn't think that we'd have a software entity running inside the organization that we started.
And that's how a lot of organizations end up. They end up as a software company. So you answered every question I was going to ask there regarding that. And it's great to see that you developed that for yourself. You got on board, you utilized what you needed to do, and then you saw the potential to help others. And that's what NFPs are about, is, like you said before, you can't operate without other, I would say, food trucks and stuff like that, because they come get a feed, they come get a wash, they come have a chat, you sort of all work together. And it's the same thing with, this works for us, why can't it work for somebody else?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's the whole idea of this podcast, is to share those ideas and know people that are starting up, or wherever they are. It might be a couple of years in. Get into it, get out there. If it works for you, it can help somebody else. So, what would moving to like the last 12 months, what would be one of the biggest challenges you faced the last 12 months, and how have you overcome that?
I think sort of challenges are a part of our Orange Sky ecosystem, and it's something that we constantly need to embrace. And whether it be, a challenge of getting machines to actually work in the back of a van, or challenges around supporting people in some of the most positive and also most negative times of their life. I think that we're always going to have challenges, a part of our DNA. In the last 12 months, we've seen our growth into a new market outside of Australia, being New Zealand. So registering an entity, looking at our shared services model, looking at running different teams and different streams across different geographies. That's been a really nice challenge. We've seen some nice challenges in growing into remote Indigenous communities, and providing primary health, and looking at connecting people through laundry with First Nations people. I think we've seen growth in our teams, whether that be our technology team or our fundraising team, in looking at building sort of sustainable revenue models. And with all those challenges, whether it be technical challenges, whether it be human challenges, I think that's probably in the last 12 months been like that. But also the last 12 months, we've actually recruited a brand new board as well, and brought some more directors on that Orange Sky board, which again increases our capacity to grow into the future.
Oh, excellent. When you're looking at the growth of the company, and you said you're on a steep growth chart even still now. I'm a nerd. I like to look at numbers and figures, but I'm an auditor, so I like that sort of stuff. And I actually did a research. You've had really substantial growth for the last few years. How do you keep that sustainable, and how do you make that happen? Is it something you just said you look at it, you manage it, but do you push it? Like, do you always say, hey, we need to make sure we're hitting these goals? Is it something that's very forefront of mind all the time?
Absolutely. It's probably something that, as Orange Sky's grown, our level and ability to do that has also grown. And, when we started, we didn't look at things like social impact or our revenue targets. We just went out there and started helping people. So it's definitely something that we, as Orange Sky's grown, our team has grown with that. But, this financial year, we're trying to raise $11.5 million of social impact. We're trying to raise $7 million to do that. And our return on investment is about 2.06 of our sort of costs, and then also our revenue raise. So we absolutely have some really clear objectives that we're trying to go out there, and that's sort of a 26% increase from our previous financial year. And I think that our level of sophistication and being able to measure that and be able to quantify that, like I said, has grown over the last couple of years. But whether it be, our first goal, we used to always talk about having 10 vans in Australia, and our goal now is to not let people down, which is the same goal that we had when we started. But to not let people down now is actually, millions of dollars of donations. It's thousands of volunteers going out and helping people, and it's those 31 vans, keeping them out on the road and having a good impact.
Absolutely. And money, unfortunately, has to come to how to do that, because you can't buy a new van if you don't have any money. So it's it's that catch-22 to help people and not let them down. You need money to come in.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's the same with it's the same with every other NFP out there, and anyone trying to help anyone. If people want to get in contact with you, want to reach out, donate, what's the best way to reach out to you?
Yeah, so our website, orangesky.org.au, you can find out more about Orange Sky. You can see where our services operate. You can register to volunteer. But also, I think the main purpose of this podcast is to really connect other not-for-profits in Australia. So Orange Sky is nowhere near an expert in this space, and definitely our successes have been derived from amazing people helping us. So if there's an opportunity to find better ways to do our service, we'd love to hear. But also, if we could return the favour of sharing any insights or advice with anyone, we'd love to do that as well.
Mate, that's brilliant. Thanks very much. And thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you.